You see, I'm the only guy who's willing to get arrested on the steps of the Capitol doing this. I don't think another person should spend another hour in jail for marijuana-related crimes. There's no reason why people who are medical marijuana smokers should feel shy or defensive about taking their medicine. Their lives are ruined when President Obama comes in here and shuts down the dispensaries.
Hi, I'm Andy Caffrey, and I approve this message.
And Democratic candidate for Congress right here in California, a man named Andy Caffrey, says if he wins, he will smoke a joint right on the steps of Capitol Hill, and adding that if he has to, he will even get arrested. So in other words, if he's elected, he'll take taxpayer money, get high, and not get anything done. Hey, welcome to Congress. He should fit in just fine. I think he'll fit in just fine. Oh. Well, Los Angeles has become the largest city in the nation to approve a ban on plastic bags at supermarket checkout lines. No more plastic bags. Now illegal in LA to have a plastic bag, unless it's filled with medical marijuana. Then you're okay. Then it's legal. Then you're okay. Yeah.
Push that thing in front to zoom in, and it's going to focus on whatever's in the little rectangle. It's got autofocus. You see a little rectangle?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're in focus.
Good.
And you're up real close.
All right. If you want to go wide, and then I'll climb up.
Okay.
Out of the picture or something.
Go ahead.
besides the kind of demonstrations that you described a minute ago, what other activities did they engage in?
The first prolonged campaign up here that I engaged in was at a place called Caddo Wilderness in Laytonville.
We're not going to leave and abandon our position. We're pretty determined to shut you guys down.
It was a Bureau of Land Management land. It had old growth on it, and protecting old growth was our really primary mission.
Are you guys bringing equipment up today? No, there'll be no equipment today. No work today for a change. Think so? I don't know.
5% of the old growth redwoods that there once were left, 5 or 10%, and if you take half of that, you're left with nothing.
We just set ourselves up in the middle of the road and physically blocked the logging equipment from getting to the place where they were supposed to cut.
Don't make it with the Lord. A bulldozer of creation will bring God's admiration, and the pearly gates may close forevermore. Let's sit down.
How are you today?
I'm fine, how are you?
Good. Who's in charge of the group here, do you know?
Well, there's no one in charge. Every single person here is here on their own. They have their own plans for what they're doing. So I think your best bet would be to ask, after the song is over, for everybody's attention and address the whole group.
Okay.
Except for the human race.
As of this morning, the Caddo Indian tribe says their treaty was broken with the BLM land because the people didn't let them know they're going to start logging up here. And the Indians are going to Sacramento and are going to raise some hell.
I guess we're all aware we got a slight problem here, correct?
Yeah, they want to log
all
these trees. Just for starters, do you have the extension permit that allows these folks to be doing this road work after October 15th?
They're not going to do any timber, they're just going to go throughout, just go out.
Okay, take a look at that. Okay, and then immediately on the same day, you gave them permission. There is problems with within the framework of the system's own rules. So we're not sure that if we let this crew go through that, we're not going to be allowing an unlawful act to be taking place.
Okay, everybody's refusing to leave then, right?
Okay, then let's huddle.
That's right.
Blocking the police vehicle, it looks like a successful Earth First blockade. We're moving pretty slow, about 1 or 2 miles an hour here.
This is sovereign territory. It is federal U.S. agreements between this nation and the U.S. government.
It's two nations.
And it has been completely violated. And the violations have been this. It is not about the operations. It is that the territory and the Caddo Nation was not notified that these operations were pending, that this operation has been in procedure for 8 years. They were not notified that none of the artifacts were removed. That is complete violation of the treaty agreements with the U.S. government.
So you guys plan to work this weekend?
No, job shut down.
Job
shut down.
Oh, it is? Who shut it down?
BLM.
Today?
Environmentalists are claiming victory for now. After all, work was stopped on a logging road today in a remote region of northern Mendocino County. The announcement to halt work came from the Department of the Interior Secretary Donald Hodel at noon today. About 30 protesters were in their third day demonstrating against next spring's planned timber harvesting on the Bureau of Land Management property near Elkhorn Ridge in the Cottle Wilderness area.
Aside from the financial and employment problems that this causes, these coastal redwoods are sort of North America's rainforest, and can we afford to exploit them inappropriately from an environmental standpoint?
That's the big environmental issue. And environmental lawsuits, in fact, Hugh, have been the one thing that's slowed down the cutting so far.
What happened as a result of your sitting road like that?
The neighbors formed a neighborhood group and filed a lawsuit, and the place was saved.
20 protesters were arrested this morning in the Arizona Strip. The members of the radical environmental group Earth First want to shut down production of uranium near the Grand Canyon.
And that's what they did for a short time today as demonstrators scaled fences and sat down in front of oil trucks. Our regional reporter Larry Warren was there, and he has the story now live via KUTV News Star. Larry?
Hello, Michelle. This is the Pigeon Mine about 30 miles southwest of Kanab, where about 75 Earth First demonstrators gathered this morning, opposing the fact that new uranium mines are opening here in the drainages which lead to the Grand Canyon.
And bring death to this planet!
Earth First gatherings are colorful. The underlying theme of Earth First is that traditional approaches to protecting the environment aren't as effective as direct action.
Let's get out in front of this one, man! Let's go!
The group advocates civil disobedience and even sabotage as tools in the environmental cause. To protest stepped-up uranium mining and increased mineral leasing of federal lands, demonstrators scaled barbed wire fences and climbed to the top of the mine head frame, forcing mine operators to temporarily shut down. As some protesters were arrested, others blocked loaded ore trucks.
And we're here as a wild bunch of eco-radicals to put an end to this.
This kind of travesty is going on in a sacred canyon, along the sacred canyon, the Grand Canyon, a public treasure, a national treasure.
Uranium mining, leave it in the ground.
Uranium miners let Arizona deputies handle the trespassers and offered little comment.
These people got a right to their opinion, you know, it's America. That's all I can say.
Energy Fuels Nuclear, the operator of this mine and 3 others along the outskirts of the Grand Canyon, beyond the boundaries, by the way, of Grand Canyon National Park, said its main concern was for the safety of its workers. No one on either side was injured at all today. The company said it likely will press charges. After the 2-hour demonstration, the mining resumed and the Earth Firsters went on their way. Randall, Michelle?
Hey Larry, why is uranium mining increasing there when the nuclear industry is shutting down mines in Utah and lots of other places in the West?
A good question. This is a brand new mine. 3 more are in development right now, and thousands of acres are being leased on the outskirts of the Grand Canyon on BLM land. The reason is in the last 10 years they've found uranium deposits here 5 times richer than other uranium mines, and that's why the old inefficient mines are being closed down and these are opening up.
Okay, quite a day. Thanks a lot, Larry, for your report. Randall?
A major environmental protest is shaping up for tomorrow morning in the so-called Arizona Strip between the Utah border and the north rim of the Grand Canyon. The issue is uranium mining, and the protesters are from a radical group known as Earth First. Environment specialist John Hollenhorst has details.
For the last few days, the unabashedly militant group called Earth First has been camping out near the Grand Canyon.
Our state is dumpsite, uranium-238.
It's their annual national rendezvous, and as they do each year, Earth First activists have selected an environmental target.
What's at issue here, I feel, is the industrialization of the Grand Canyon area.
Uranium mining first came to the area in the early 1980s after the discovery of a rich deposit of ore. There are now 3 mines in operation and 3 more under development about 20 miles from Grand Canyon National Park. Earth First has singled out one of the mines for a demonstration, and they promise acts of civil disobedience.
Well, it focuses people's attention on the fact that the public lands are being used for a very poisonous kind of a purpose by people who are only in it for a big buck and have got nothing in it for the rest of us at all.
Predictably, those attitudes have stirred resentment in the nearby towns of Kanab, Utah, and Fredonia, Arizona. Residents there appreciate the uranium boom.
It helps a lot around here. Used to be a lot of tourists, but there's not that many, and brings a lot of jobs and more people into town.
Most people don't even know where they're mining it, except the ecologists, and they just go look for it, so they'll have something to complain about.
The Lord gave us the earth to use. Economically, we need that to exist in this area.
When the fuel's dug up, it leaves holes in the ground, holes in the ground, holes in the ground, and uranium tailings scattered around Indian grounds, Grand Canyon grounds.
When the Earth First rendezvous began, several hundred campers were on hand, but most went home over the weekend, so less than 100 protesters are expected. John Hollenhorst, Eyewitness News, near Fredonia, Arizona.
Nearly 24 militant environmentalists were arrested at a uranium mine in northern Arizona today. The protesters object to what they call the industrialization of the so-called Arizona Strip north of the Grand Canyon. Our environment specialist, John Hollenhorst, has the story via Star West 5 from the rim of the Grand Canyon.
About 75 protesters joined in a hot, dusty march about 20 miles north of the Grand Canyon. Earth First opposes uranium mining anywhere, but especially so close to a national park.
The energy fuel fools my minions.
The demonstrators were stopped at the front gate, but about a dozen scrambled over fences and infiltrated the mine site. A few climbed onto piles of uranium tailings. Others climbed the 6 or 8 story head frame above the mine shaft. Arrests quickly followed, including several people who briefly chained themselves on top of the tower. Others were arrested after they blocked ore trucks. In all, 22 were taken into custody.
I think the people who get arrested are committed to making the point that it's worth getting arrested to get the mine shut down.
These things will continue, and eventually we will bring uranium mining to a halt.
By staging their event at a mine operated by the Energy Fuels Company, some local residents say Earth First picked the wrong target.
I've seen their work, I've seen their reclamation. Energy Fuels is top of the market as far as a company that takes care of the land.
All it does is make us angry at those people that come into our area and try to tell us how to allocate the resources in our area.
The trespassers were brought to court here in Fredonia. The other protesters are on their way home, and the uranium mine is back in business. But Earth Firsters say this is only the beginning of demonstrations on the Arizona Strip. John Hollenhorst, Eyewitness News, Fredonia, Arizona.
A couple of weeks ago, some radical environmentalists made news by getting themselves arrested during a protest at a uranium mine near the Grand Canyon. As demonstrations go, it was a bit more dramatic than those you usually see because it provided some startling television pictures. John Hollenhorst covers environmental issues, and this evening he's here to give us some background on the people behind Earth First, and they put together a real dramatic demonstration.
Well, Bruce, this is a group that has pretty much given up on mainstream politics as a means of getting what they want. Instead, they've kind of adopted the idea of theatrical demonstrations to get what they want, and they tend to operate sort of on the fringes of the law.
Did they adopt their agenda from that Edward Abbey novel?
Well, they've all read the book. As you recall the book, it's about a group of radical environmentalists who go out and sabotage government equipment and mining company equipment and so on. They take on the enemies of the environment through sabotage. Now, Earth First has adopted some of the inspiration of that book, if not necessarily its tactics.
When the fuel's dug up, it leaves holes.
It's a group that specializes in catchy songs, weird costumes, flashy protests staged for the news cameras, and strong rhetoric about the environment.
But it's a commitment to try and stem the tide of destruction.
So who are these people, this ragtag bunch of 1960s hippies and 1970s free spirits who make the Sierra Club look as tame as the Chamber of Commerce?
Our say is done sight.
Straight environmental movement, the established environmental movement, is merely trying to reform the system as it is. And I think what we want to do is we want to shake the system up, turn it upside down, and start completely over again.
If you think all this is a strange byproduct of the Ronald Reagan era, you're wrong. Earth First actually started during the Carter administration, when a few environmentalists got fed up with politics. The movement quickly spread overseas to places like Australia. Earth First's motto is no compromise. Their chosen tactic is confrontation.
So we're kind of a last-ditch effort to save some of these wild areas after they've been dealt away in smoky back rooms. And what we're trying to do is bring the struggle right out here in the trees and the parks where the real damage is taking place.
Many Earth Firsters idolized the fictional Monkey Wrench Gang, which committed sabotage against enemies of the environment.
The group as a whole certainly doesn't advocate monkey wrenching. It's an individual matter, a matter for the individual conscience.
Earth Firsters claim to be a movement without leaders, operating by consensus rather than edict. But when it comes to protests, they are well organized. The target is scouted carefully days in advance. This time, it's a uranium mine 20 miles from the Grand Canyon. Earth First wants it shut down because they claim it pollutes the environment and mars the scenery.
It's 8 miles after you hit the pavement.
The day before the protest, Earth First plans the strategy thoroughly, and each person decides whether or not to get arrested.
The other states all love us because we rarely take a stand.
By the time they put on their radiation suits and animal costumes, several news cameras are on hand. That's because Earth Firsters have called news organizations all over the region, inviting them to attend, news helicopters and all. The march ends at the front gate, where the chanting and theatrics begin in earnest. The orchestration of the event continues right up to the gate of the plant. Most of what's going on back here is essentially a diversion, while Earth First activists are getting ready elsewhere to escalate the situation. Up to this point, the overall strategy is a secret, but then Earth Firsters quietly spread the word to newsmen. Keep an eye on the man in the red T-shirt, perched on a bluff behind the uranium mine. The protesters coordinate by walkie-talkie. They want arrests eventually, one of them tells us, but they want the timing to be just right.
They'll make the decision when they want to go in.
What will they be taking into account when they decide that?
Number of personnel around, what the situation looks like to them.
Do they want more cops or fewer cops?
Off the record?
Yeah.
Fewer right now.
Another diversion. A group of protesters makes a scene near the front gate. Then the main event. Several Earth Firsters invade the compound, scrambling over fences and down a steep bank, heading for the huge tower above the mine. As the befuddled cops start to react, the demonstrators climb the tower, creating a spectacle that will make an irresistible image for the television cameras. As the sympathizers cheer, more than a dozen trespassers make it over the fences, unfurling banners and putting on a show for the cameras. The inevitable arrests are made, 22 in all. It all goes like clockwork, and a lot of it will wind up on television.
This is a start. It's a major upgrade of the activities that have happened around here as far as protesting. These things will continue, and eventually we will bring uranium mining to a halt.
In nearby Kanab, Utah, though, the Earth Firsters are viewed with hostility by people who disagree with their tactics and question their sincerity.
These guys get together for a party, basically. I used to do it in the 60s myself. But don't put down one of the few economic things around here to work. They're fighting our economy around here.
It's something so sad, the truth is so full.
Earth First tactics have been delighting some people and annoying others for years, but there's no indication yet that they ever intend to tone things down.
They staged this as a media event. How do you feel about being drawn in to suit their agenda?
Well, we were drawn in, but I think perhaps justifiably so. It is news when somebody feels strongly enough about a subject to get themselves arrested, when 22 of them do. It was dramatic, it was news, and we thought we'd cover it, although I must say that this kind of thing does tend to wear a little thin, so if they do this too much in one region, they might run out of publicity.
What about the reports of vandalism? Are they true?
We kept hearing those kind of reports the whole time we were down there. We were down there for several days while this group was camping out in that region, and we kept hearing reports of vandalism. And every time we tried to check one out, it would sort of evaporate. The people that supposedly had it happen to them, we couldn't find them or whatever. The law enforcement officials we talked to said there were no unusual cases of vandalism, nothing out of the ordinary. They thought it was actually quite a peaceful group, from what they could tell.
Their opponents charge that Earth First is in favor of AIDS. What's that all about?
Well, there is some truth to that. This is a recent copy of the Earth First newspaper in which they talk about the world's population being the greatest environmental problem.
Got just a moment.
AIDS is a possible way to reduce the population. This article says, as radical environmentalists, we can see AIDS not as a problem, but a necessary solution. Parenthetically, it says one you probably don't want to try for yourself.
That's probably radical. I mean, that's probably fair to say that's radical.
Pretty radical. The editor told us it was meant in all seriousness, and Earth First people, by and large, have agreed with that editorial, he said.
Earth First, thank you. John Hollenhorst. We'll be back with more Primetime Access after these messages.
Bright lights didn't stop them, guards didn't deter them. An 8-foot-high fence couldn't keep militant environmentalists from sneaking onto this Brentwood strawberry field Monday morning and effectively delaying today's frostband bacteria test. Critics call it genetically engineered madness and disrupted the first experiment on the Brentwood strawberries last April by pulling up most of the plants. This time the sabotage was more destructive.
One protester showed up at Friday's sunrise test.
Until you have a Bhopal or Chernobyl, you can't stop things like this.
Skeptics are wondering if altering the biology of the food is the right substitute.
But repeated resistance to the frostband testing could force the company to take the experiments out of the state or even out of the country. Australia is one place that they're looking at. But the environmental activists say they have people in Australia and they'll try the same kinds of tactics there.
Hi, I'm Andy Caffrey, and I approve this message.
I'm Andy Caffrey with Earth First, and I just wanted to give you some good news. A couple of years ago, some of you may have heard about the Bay Area making global history when the first genetically engineered microorganism was released into the open environment on the planet. Well, some of us didn't like the idea that they were going to do that, and we filed some lawsuits and got some petitions signed and had some demonstrations and such. And then the night before the test, when press from all over the world were going to go to this test site and watch something equivalent to the moon landing, some people that I heard about went out there and harvested the strawberry plants. Well, this happened again about 8 months later. Yeah, the real heroes, you know. Anyways, the good news is that just a little while ago I talked to the head of the project for this company, which is over there in Oakland, right there on San Pablo, 1 block south of Ashby, near McDonald's. Keep that in mind. It's called Advanced Genetic Sciences, and what this project head told me was that they have now abandoned their genetically engineered organism. They also said, you guys don't know how successful you've been. They can't find any investors because we caused so much shit that the climate changed. Everyone thought genetic engineering was going to be ecological. You know, get rid of the chemicals and get the microbes in there. Well, we've sort of put out another perception. So I just want to encourage you to go out there and kick some ass. Direct action does work. And the last thing I want to say is we have like 1 or 2 more years to save the redwoods, folks. I've evacuated the Bay Area in the last year. I've moved up there. The biggest area of redwoods left that's not protected is only 3,000 acres. That's it. There were millions of acres. Okay, so if you want to do something, don't wait till you graduate. Go up to Garberville, go up to Arcata, go up to Southern Oregon this summer. I'll see you there. Bye.
60-30 deal.
I'm still confused about and check it out to see if it's okay for the people in the store to clean it up or if it's more poisonous, and couldn't get any information. Called the fire department. Well, I'm not certain. Well, okay, call your own.
Storage. Instead of keeping this place locked up.
It's not drinkable. It's only used for agricultural purposes. We're going to do some testing in it, but at the present time, it's not used for drinking purposes.
Well, it could be cleaned up, though.
Check out your damn action.
Daryl. Yeah. Here's all ready for our tune.
All right.
Presentation first.
We all do that every weekend. Okay.
But we have, sure,
My son has something for you. Turn it around too. There's some.
See how it looks.
All right. Dylan, bring it up.
Hi. How old are you? 7. What is your name? I'm sorry?
Dylan.
Dylan. Oh, that's a
Dylan.
beautiful name, Dylan.
Right.
Are you in the first grade or the second grade? Second. Ah.
Right. Is Don gonna be?
I saw John Muir last night, alive as you and me. Said I, but John, you're long since dead. I never die, says he. I never die, says he. They flooded your hedge and tree, John, in Yosemite, I said. You died then of a broken heart, says John, but I ain't dead. Says John, but I ain't dead. The inside takes more than laws to kill a soul, says John. Then standing there, as big as life, and smiling with his eyes, says John to mobilize. From Forest Green to
I'm going to try and take a couple more calls and see if, we need to reboot our system. Andy in California. Hey, Andy.
Hi, Tom. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're coming through just fine. Either there's an epidemic of bad cell phones out there or we've got to reboot our system as soon as we get off the air. But anyhow, what's up?
Yeah, well, I've been a Green for 30 years, and I'm now running for Congress, registered Democratic. And I'm doing it because of basically my experience 30 years as a climate crisis organizer. And when you assess how we have to make our climate change, there are 4 different areas where we can pursue it, and I've ruled out 3 of them. And they are personal lifestyle changes. We've been working on that for 41 years, and it's not done it.
Since Rachel Carlson?
A lot of great governors and mayors who have come together trying to do what Bush wouldn't do, but their projected decrease in emissions is about 1/3 of what's needed. And then we have these international treaties, which Bush, Obama, whoever you want to, put in power, they're not going to approve it. So that leaves the Supreme Court and Congress. Obviously, the Supreme Court's out because the president determines who that is. And so we're developing a method here in Humboldt County and the north coast of California, which is a unique district, heavily Democratic, whereby we organize year after year to get 40,000 votes. That's all we have to do here to win the Democratic primary. And since we're gerrymandered Democratic, that gets us the election.
Wow.
So I've actually built a campaign around your book. I have everything from rebooting the American dream in my 100 issue positions and a campaign called New Green America, which is 7 proposals: fight the climate crisis is threat number 1, rebuild America's infrastructure around bioregions and sustainability to meet all our needs as close to home as possible, tax the rich, Medicare for all, and expansion of the social safety net, retreat the U.S. empire, end corporate personhood, legalize marijuana and the war on drugs, prosecute Bush for war crimes, and electoral reform and paper ballots.
That's great.
And
Andy,
so I'd like
I wish you the very best. Do you have a website you want to plug it?
Yep. My name is Andy Caffrey, Caffrey, and it's CaffreyForCongress.org.
Caffrey, CAFFREY for Congress.org. Thank you, Andy, for calling in, and I think it is our phones that are dying. My apologies. So, anyhow, coming up tomorrow, the latest on the Ohio election, Politicus Interruptus. We'll talk with National Progressive PR strategist Cliff Schechter, plus all the other news of the day and issues and your calls. And don't forget, democracy begins when you show up, when you participate. Tag, you're it. Get out there, get active, occupy something. We'll see you tomorrow.
How are you building America? What are you doing that is good for this country? What are you doing?
What we do is we finance those small businesses that do create jobs.
What small businesses have you financed this week?
We do lend to different companies and clients.
And who? Give us an example, because I think you're just BSing. I don't believe you for a second, Leo. Anybody that calls this program and says, well, they're unemployable, and I say, well, if you talk to them and the person says no, you obviously are just parroting what you hear Peter King or Bill O'Reilly or Rush Limbaugh say, right? Come on, Leo, be honest.
Right.
Try to be honest. Go ahead.
Peter King is absolutely right.
Okay. All right, Leo, thanks for checking in. Jesus Christ. I can't, Kathy always tells me, well, you have an ass online so-and-so, but try not to scream at him. And I tried, Kathy. I didn't scream, did I? Leo, call some other program, all right? You shouldn't be listening to this. You really shouldn't. You just shouldn't. Take my word for it. Andy is in Garberville, California. Hello, Andy.
Hi, Mike. Greetings from Humboldt County. Thanks for your buy local pitch last night.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, that makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. That's our future, actually.
There you go.
I've been at Occupy Humboldt, but I'd like to talk about organizing tonight.
Sure.
About what we can do after this. I'm a 54-year-old grassroots organizer. I've done it my whole life. Been involved in Earth First since 1985, doing direct action. Been involved in forming both the Green parties in this country going back to 1980. I've canvassed for CISPIS, I've sabotaged genetic engineering test sites, and most recently I'm organizing emergency homeless shelters here. So I'm only interested in spending my time on projects that can work or have a chance of working.
I hear you.
So for me, I've also been a climate crisis organizer for 30 years. I came up with the meme climate crisis, and to me, that has got to be the central organizing principle right now. It actually solves a lot of our problems as activists about how do we focus and what do we do.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is, consider as an analogy, you're sitting on the beach and a tsunami's coming. If you wait until you see the water go out and you start to run away from the beach, it doesn't matter if you're heading in the right direction if you don't get far enough away fast enough.
Right.
And that's the way it is with the polar ice and all the methane coming out of the permafrost and all the rest of it.
Right.
So in 1990, there were reports that came out from the EPA, IPCC, Woods Hole, and they all said that we had to reduce our emissions on the order of 55 to 80% below 1990 levels by 2000 or 2005.
Mm-hmm.
And what we've learned now is that it's more urgent than that. And I've been studying what's going on with the polar ice, and half of Greenland is melting now.
Mm-hmm.
If Greenland goes, now it won't go all at once, but if it goes 1/20th at a time, that's a foot sea level increase per year. So for me, that's the threshold. That's what we have to prevent. Okay? So that's my goal. And when you think about the climate issue, think about, well, what are the possible avenues? Well, let's start with the closest to home, personal lifestyle choices, and then extend outward. Well, we've tried personal lifestyle choices since Earth Day 41 years ago. It's not going to do it in time.
Right.
We've got a bunch of mayors and governors who, under Bush, decided, screw Bush, he's not going to do anything, we've got to do something. But what they're doing, as admirable as it is about 1/3 of what has to be done.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to get you away from the beach in time. Okay, then you get up to, let's just jump ahead. The international treaties are going on. Well, you know that no president, Bush or Obama, is going to let those treaties, impinge on our sovereignty. So that's out.
Right.
So it takes you to the federal government. And you got the three branches. Well, we're not going to get better than Obama or Gore, and they're inadequate. I coined climate crisis as a reaction to Clinton sending Gore to gut Kyoto, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So these people won't do it. And obviously, because they control the Supreme Court, they can't do it. So that leaves the Senate and the House. The Senate's too big to organize. And I learned, starting in 2006, that there were some possibilities to organize to get people like Michael Moore or Amy Goodman into Congress. So what I think we need to do is to work on that project. I'm actually running for Congress now, but it's a methodology that I'm developing that I think will get more famous people in 2 years from now and some more 2 years after that. And that is, if we had 20 people like that in 4 years from now, there's a lot we could do to change the agenda. We would be the antidote to the Tea Party. All these reporters want to interview someone that's the opposite of the Tea Party. Well, the Green Movement should be that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that. So the detail is that in 2006, there were 15 congressional races that were won by 5,000 votes or less.
Mm-hmm.
And I give the Netroots people credit for that. So I started thinking, well, what about the ones that lost by 5,000 votes? Maybe we can start to get those. And then when you looked at our district, in my district, wine and marijuana are the top two industries. We are 4-1 Democrats to Republicans. If you win the Democratic primary, you win. And to win the Democratic primary, you have to get 40,000 votes.
Hey, Andy, listen, I hate to say this, but I am flat out of time. Here comes the end of the top of the hour news and all that. I'd love to hear more of what you have to say, and I'm going to ask you to call me again. I think your ideas are great. I'd like to hear more of them, all right? Thanks a lot, Andy. We'll be back in a minute. Stay with us. I'm Mike Malloy.
Going to the seventh floor. Seventh floor. Seventh floor. Going up. Seventh floor. Seventh floor. One more. One more for the seventh floor. Say it now. Get in further. Squeeze in. It's giving your university kind of a bad name, and a lot of the California universities are going to stop. UAM Vatican, come here. We're finally on our own. First and Apache coming.
hippies out here. Some folks call me John, and some folks call me Paul. Mostly I go by the name of the Pope. Now, I already bought off the U of A, and so I'm offering all you hippies some more money to get out of here. Here's $5,000 for you. Here's $5,000 for you. I want you hippies out of here right now. Hey, 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 hey.
University students managed to avoid arrest during a protest over telescope construction on Mount Graham this evening. More than 30 students occupied the lobby in front of the office of University President Dr. Henry Koffler. They were demanding a meeting with him over the clearing of trees on the mountain. The office closes at 5. Students waited until 7 minutes after the hour before leaving the building. Police officers on hand were ready to make arrests but didn't have to. Protesters say there should not be any further work on the mountain because, they say, legal challenges are still pending.
We feel that if this were to come by, what's the point of having all the trees cut in the meantime, because it really will endanger the species, which they're already very limited in number.
They know that we're willing to sacrifice to get our point across. I think that it's important that we make a point.
Koffler was out of town this afternoon, but he will meet with a delegation of students next week. They are satisfied tonight after scoring a victory against the U of A's telescope project on Mount Graham. A federal court of appeals gave the Sierra Club a stay, halting any telescope construction until after a hearing in December. Environmentalists are trying to stop the project because of the harm it could pose to the endangered red squirrel. U of A officials say the project is now in jeopardy. They say 2 key partners in the project may pull out before the hearing because of continued construction delays. The officials say they filed papers in court last week saying further delays could jeopardize the project, but the court did not buy that argument.
7 people are arrested as work starts on the controversial Mount Graham telescope project. Good evening.
Thanks for joining us. Well, project opponents square off with tree cutters as work resumes on the mountain. Court decisions have delayed that project for months, but now as it finally gets underway, the opposition shows no signs of letting up.
And they're doing this, ironically, for the sake of science. And what we're saying is that there's no right to make any animal extinct, and so we're trying to stop them from doing that up here on Mount Graham.
Now, all of the tree cutting and transplanting, as well as most of the arrests today, took place at that construction site. The U.S. Forest Service would not allow our camera up there, but we do have some pictures taken this morning in this lower area. When law enforcement officials and construction crews arrived this morning, they came across a few obstacles. A padlock on one of 2 gates had been jammed with cement and other debris. A cutting torch had to be used to remove that lock. At the second gate leading to the site, a protester had attached herself to the center point using a bicycle lock. A hacksaw was used to free her. She was the first of 7 protesters arrested. They're charged with criminal trespassing as a result of this last-ditch effort to thwart the tree cutting.
We held them off for half a day. That's something, and apparently it's going to take a couple more days for them to cut all the trees down, so we still have 2 more days to stop them. There's also the possibility of legal action, which may pop up in the next day or 2. So we're at least minimizing, to the best extent that we can, the damage that's being done up there.
These tired, cold, and wet members of Earth First are being given a roof over their heads, in jail. They were among 7 environmentalists, 5 men and 2 women, who were arrested today for trespassing. They sabotaged locks, put barricades and nails in the road, dug a deep ditch, and even handcuffed themselves to trees in a futile attempt to stop construction from starting on the telescope, a project they fear will kill the endangered red squirrel population atop Mount Graham.
Is that the Endangered Species Act is being trashed in this country. It's the spotted owl up in Oregon, it's a mission blue butterfly in the San Francisco area, and it's a red squirrel here. And this is a serious threat to the ecology of the planet. So we're just making a statement here that they should not be cutting for the sake of science by destroying an endangered species.
Authorities would not allow us past this point. In fact, about the only time the gate is unlocked is to bring out another batch of protesters who have been arrested. Although they were unable to stop construction today, the environmentalists say they will continue to at least delay progress in the project every day until all of them have been arrested.
Because we don't want them wiping out the last 140 red squirrels. We don't want them wiping out any more species on this planet. And it's worth like I said, a few days in jail or a few hours in jail or even a few weeks in jail to keep the life support systems of the planet going.
The environmentalist lawsuit against the telescope project will be heard in a federal appeals court in December. In the meantime, the University of Arizona hopes to cut away all the large trees and lay the footings and foundation for the first telescope before the winter snows come. Atop Mount Graham, Mike Huckman, 9 News.
Corey, how important is it at this point for the U of A to get this project moving?
Well, as we found out today, weather is of utmost concern to all of those involved. It got quite chilly up there. There was hail, there was snow earlier in the week. So that is a main concern to the U of A construction crews because they want to do as much as they can, clear the site, and do some other work before they have to shut down for the winter. And they think they've got only until the end of this month before they do have to shut down.